Okay, we are live. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and Shibes, Bitcoiners and Litecoiners, to the second BitTube.tv podcast. You'll notice my video is now working, so sorry about the previous one. I did my best. We've got the technical issues fixed. I have with me here Hiroja. Is that how you pronounce it?
That's how you pronounce it, yes.
Hiroja Shibe, and she is an avid blogger, podcaster, and community supporter. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I basically, like most people, jumped into the Dogecoin community in 2013 after pretty much watching Bitcoin for a while. I found that this community versus Bitcoin, which I've watched for almost a year, was very enthusiastic, very friendly, willing to reach out and just help one another to learn what cryptocurrency was, what Dogecoin was, and then try something different, try different things. Like, it was very socially aware, very community active. If they wanted to try anything and everything and see what sticks to the wall. And if it didn't stick to the wall, well, then let's try it again or try a different way. Reaching out, in a global sense, like engaging people that were, either French or Chinese or something like that. And I just found that it was fun. It was exciting. And I just really gravitated into it and just went full board.
Yeah, that's sort of what happened to me. I remember hearing about Bitcoin for like a couple of years and never really got into it. And then it was, this new thing. So I was actually listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and he had Andreas Antonopoulos on, and they were talking about Bitcoin. And I felt stupid for not jumping in. I'm a tech guy, so I felt kind of, this should be something I do.
Yeah.
And that happened to be, what was it, December that Dogecoin was created?
Yeah, December 2013.
Yeah, so December 2013, I just happened to stumble across Dogecoin, which was a new coin that had just been created and was totally goofy, and the value was just skyrocketing at the time. So that's where I learned about pump and dumps, and I got into it. But the interesting thing was the people, the community behind it is so awesome, and it's amazing to see. I mean, a year and a little bit later, what kind of brand reputation Dogecoin has. I've worked for a couple big companies with like very specific, they have books on how to use their logos and what their brand image is. So to see something like organic, like Dogecoin, come out of the blue and have a very specific brand and people associated behind it is just wild. So
it's very wild. And I've worked with different companies and stuff like that. And I've also worked with politics where it's all very, sociable, engaging on an individual and macro and micro way of speaking to people. And with this, it was just very basic. I almost want to say elementary stuff like, hey, my name is da 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 da. This is what I like. Do you like the same thing I do? And someone else said yes, or someone would say, well, no, but what is it? Like, people were willing to actually, especially with the internet, actually engage in such a very simple social manner, very elementary manner. And it just built off of it when people realized, people aren't faking it. They were very genuinely, they want to know about you. They want to show you how to do this. They want you to succeed. They want you to be excited and happy and have fun and laugh. They wanted to, all those goofy memes. People were trying to like out laugh each other, make the best joke or something. And I found that very exciting, very engaging, and just very interesting to see how something that's actually, very technical and has the potential to have such a great economic impact could be very human.
Yeah. Well, you're right about the economic impact. I was talking with Joseph, I'm going to butcher his last name, Fusetta, and he's the creative DogecoinOnTheMoon.com. And we were talking about the economical implications of it. And 100 years ago, 1900s, the New York Stock Exchange and all this new space age market economy started to be created. And we think it's the only way it could ever be. And we are creating, if you go to coinmarketcap.com and just look at all the different cryptocurrencies that are there, it's amazing. And this is just starting. And 3 weeks ago, people were talking about Dogecoin is dead, and no, it's not. It's 3 weeks later, and the coin market cap, our transactional volume per hour is just skyrocketing because everybody's doing this moon pledge thing, which, if you're not aware of, it's the idea is buy $1 of Dogecoin every day, and we can defeat deflation and do a slow burn of US dollars into Dogecoin.
Yeah, it was also that concept is always very simple. This is a whole keeping with the principles of, the community, support the community, engage, they're asking you to hold it for a while and use it to do, spending and charities and stuff like that, but hold it for the purpose of building the community awareness and building a stronger coin. And it's like, you don't have to be like Bitcoin and dump like thousands or hundreds of dollars. It's just, $5, a Starbucks cup of coffee for some people. It's very, and is accessible. People tell you all the different ways depending on where you are globally, how to purchase it, how to do it, and to make these type of buys and just to support. And it's also a way to engage the community, because people are like, well, I can do more, and they're kind of competing with each other in a fun way. People are talking about what they'll do, like charitable, the charitable things they're going to do. I also think it helped, like, with the act of shyness that it's happening on the BitTube thing. Like, people are kind of re-engaging in different ways. They're doing small acts instead of like the big thing that may have drove people into the community. But it was always, for me personally, it was always all these series of small acts that were happening within the community that kept me constantly engaged and telling people, like, this is all the different things you can do with Dogecoin.
Yeah, and that statement there, these are all the different things you can do with Dogecoin. It's so transcendent of just a cryptocurrency. It's digital cash, and you can use it to purchase items on the internet. I mean, that's a very good description of Bitcoin and Litecoin. But when you ask what is Dogecoin, like, how are you supposed to explain that without looking like you're like, here's our mascot. It's this Dogecoin, and it rides rockets, and we go to the moon. It's funny, but it really is transcending just being a coin. It's a brand image, and it's a way of life. It's a meaning. It's a meme. It's so many different things, but it's about getting out there and helping people. It's so much more than just a cryptocurrency, and that for sure is the reason that Dogecoin can never die. It's invincible. It's going to keep going, because as we saw with those, what are those water bucket challenges? The ALS water bucket challenge?
Yes.
Well, that's where this guy, Rory, and I came up with the idea for acts of shyness. It was, everybody loves these acts of kindness, and to see these heartwarming videos on the internet is amazing. And we don't see nearly enough of them. And it's got to be for a cause, and you have to donate. I don't know, Charlie Sheen did like 20 grand or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do the everyday people make a difference? And it was so easy for Dogecoin to take that image on. And we've had, I think, like 20 videos for acts of shyness get posted up, and it's going around the internet. It is really happening. And
I've been watching that, and I think it's great, because I've been talking to a few people, because particularly with charities and stuff like that, because I'm very familiar with the scenes. And most charities, people don't realize, they're not like March of Dimes where they're getting millions. They're getting like hundreds or thousands of dollars. And it's with, credit cards and stuff, a lot of that gets eaten up. Most charities don't even accept credit cards. It's just straight cash. And it's like, if you want to help somebody that's all the way like in Minnesota that's doing a great cause, and they can't accept credit cards or whatever, because maybe they're just feeding the homeless, and all they're doing is, like, every Saturday they go out and they count or give clothes or something like that. You can send $50 and know that they're going to get $50, that money is going to be spent for that cause, and they're going to get the full weight and the full amount, and it's instantaneous. It's not going to be days. It's not going to be weeks. They're not going to be sitting there waiting for the bank transaction to get in and go, okay, we now know that even though we have all these pledges and all these pendings, we still only have like $100 in the account, but we're waiting on $1,000 to come in, when in fact they have $1,000 on hand.
Yeah, and there's no transparency to that either. I mean, I've heard like a couple companies now, they go and they collect all this money, but like 80,000 of that is actually going into the CEO's salary.
Yeah, I when working with charities and stuff like that, I always tell people like there's certain stuff like there's Charity Navigator is one of the big .orgs that goes through and checks out charities, but a lot of states have laws where if all you have to do is give 1% of what you raise towards the cause and you can keep the rest.
Wow.
So I said, always check, how much they're actually giving. Most states, a lot of states have those reports on hand. Sometimes they're like, maybe depending on which state you're in, it might be a few years behind or a couple years behind, but always look and see how much you're actually giving. Cause then, do you want to give their money towards that cause? Because if the most of that money is going into somebody's pocket or salary or something like that, unless they're a doctor, like Doctors Without Borders, and you understand, medical equipment costs a lot of money. Doctors, getting to places costs a lot of money. Some things you can understand, but if you're like giving clothes away and someone's getting paid $100,000 a year, that to me is very suspicious. That to me doesn't sound right. Personally, it doesn't sound right, and it's like it should be going more towards helping individuals.
For sure. And one of the big issues with that, I went to this game store, and they had all sorts of like miniatures and magic cards and stuff. And I walked up to the cash register, and I had you ever heard this game Space Munchkin? It's a little card game. Whatever.
No, I haven't heard of it. No.
Okay, so the point was, I walk up to the cash register and I go, "Hey, would you guys take Dogecoin or Bitcoin or anything? Because I don't have cash on me, but I've got equivalent Dogecoin." And the guy actually said yes, he was interested in it, and I helped get it set up for him, so he can accept currencies and stuff. And it was such a pain in the butt to actually get it done. And a couple weeks ago, I started to realize it is kind of a pain in the butt. You got to go download this wallet. You got to create maybe a website. You got to, like when Moolah was out, you could create like a Moolah store, and that was a really good idea, but it was sort of complicated. So I thought, and that's for businesses, but what about people? Like, for example, what if you wanted to do a podcast and get paid for the podcast, for the actual, this thing that we're doing here right now, or perhaps writing an article? How do we get paid? So that's why I wrote BitTube.tv and a new website, technewsia.com. And right down here, if you're listening to the podcast, I'm pointing below, there's 3 buttons. And when you create a new post, when you upload a new video, it actually goes out and creates a Litecoin, Bitcoin, and Dogecoin address on each of the blockchains. And we use block.io as the back end of that. So when you click that button, it pops open your wallet instantly. Like, it just pops open, fills out all the address information, and you can hit send. And you will purchase my time and my commitment to go out and keep doing this. And for Hiroja, I mean, you've been an avid blogger and podcaster for a little while. Like, have you made any sort of like money doing it?
No, I have not. I mean, I have received tips throughout doing all of this and stuff like that. And I would say collectively over a year and some change, maybe $50 altogether.
Yeah, really.
Fluctuations and stuff like that with Dogecoin, Litecoin, and Bitcoin at the most. I mean, in my show notes and stuff like that, there's, my address is a tip and stuff like that, but there is no instantaneous connection unless you go to like, change tip or specific stuff. And I've talked about this a few times, like there needs to be the 1, 2, 3 when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Like, I don't know if you ever been to In-N-Out before.
No.
But In-N-Out is a chain of hamburger places out in the West, and they only have 3 items on their menu. It's a hamburger, a double hamburger, and a cheeseburger. That's it. Is 1, 2, 3. And now you can do a la cartes and stuff like that, but that's all they have. They don't have salad, they don't have burritos, they don't have anything. Those are the 3 items you can have, and that's what we need. But the other thing about In-N-Out is they have what is called a secret menu. And you can look it up and you can do all these crazy things, but they don't advertise it. It's like a word of mouth thing. Like if you really like In-N-Out, you can learn about the In-N-Out stuff. And that's what the blockchain and the Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies.
Right.
If you really want to know about the blockchain and how to create wallets and all this different stuff, you can learn that. But it should not be something that's put in people's face to begin with, because people don't know that about emails or how to create a Facebook or even how to create blogs. For a while there, you had to know how to do that. But now stuff is downloadable, like 123 WordPress, and you're on and creating a blog or blogger, all this different stuff. The companies have taken the time and effort to make it everything just a push of a button. And I don't think enough of that is occurring within the cryptocurrency space because people are so enamored with the blockchain and how tech savvy they are. Like, oh, I can do this.
It's a bunch of nerds going,
yes.
hey, look at all the nerd stuff I can do.
And there is a lot of corporate people coming in and saying, yes, this is nerd stuff and that's great, but you need consumers and they're not nerds. Not everyone is nerds. And I think it's important that the cryptocurrency space, especially the beginners that are in this space, if they want to keep it not controlled by the financial legacy systems, because they're moving in quick this year. I mean, they've been around the edges and they started in 2013, but a lot of them are appearing on boards of already existing cryptocurrency companies. NASDAQ just opened a Bitcoin price index. They're expanding quick because this is a threat to their current system. They've seen what decentralized technology has done to other industries, from the music industry to Uber, to robots and manufacturing companies and stuff like that.
It goes back to the French Revolution with the printing press, decentralization of information.
Yes, it goes all the way back there. They don't want that. They want to protect their power base as best as they can. And the best way to do it for most people, smart power-based people, is to co-opt it. I mean, squashing it doesn't work. That's how you get the music industry that's right now in movies and TV. Even with Uber and stuff, when you squash those things, it doesn't happen. Now people are accepting it more so and trying to tax it or something to that effect. And so if the cryptocurrency wants to grow, it needs to focus on consumers and not necessarily grandma, but it needs to be so simple that it's very intuitive, that a 9-year-old can pick up mom's phone and end up racking up $1,000 charge, just like some of these downloadable games.
Yeah, well, that was something I designed these websites with because, I actually just heard about ChangeTip after I built all this stuff. But even still, it can be like Twitch TV accepts ChangeTip, but the person streaming it has to go and specifically enable ChangeTip on their website. So I have a website called bitgamer.tv, and it's exactly like Twitch, except it is built on using Bitcoin and so technologies. So users can actually create a goal. So say, use my knife only to kill people, and put up a goal for 10,000 Dogecoin. And we have a guy named Akuthia who made 500,000 Dogecoin in a sitting. Like literally 500,000 Dogecoin from one guy, and he made $86 at the end of the night, $86 for streaming Kerbal Space Station. And
I've heard of that game. That game is pretty amazing, I hear, and I'm looking to download that pretty soon.
You definitely need to check it out. Do it on a Friday after work. Give yourself 3 days because you won't be able to put it down.
That's what everyone's saying. Like, it sucks you in.
You in.
They're like, you're actually sitting there and you're excited about building rockets and watching them go up and trying to figure out which one is the best one that goes up. And it's
very educational as well, because it'll teach you about the orbit of planets and all this kind of thing. And actually, so there was big news when Akuthia got this big tip, and we wanted to make Dogecoin the official the Kerbal Space Station the official video game of Dogecoin, and make mods for it, so you could actually download this game, download the mod, and stick a flag on the moon. So we thought that was funny. But I don't know what happened to that, of course. It turns out it's hard work to create mods.
It is very hard work to take mods. It's fun to play them. It's another thing to create them and stuff like that.
Yeah, and actually, I believe that game is available to purchase with Dogecoin. I totally forget the website, but there's some people working very hard to take your Dogecoin and transform them into Steam keys. So if you got enough, go check that out. If you've been thinking about doing that, go check it out. And definitely, if you're going to buy it, go buy some Dogecoin and find that website and use it, because you'll just support the economy by doing that more.
Yeah, I've been trying to, personally myself, anything small or anything within that 25, that micro dollar range, I've been looking to, set aside Dogecoin, and that's what I'm going to be purchasing with, whether it be through sites, gift cards, or anything like that, just to help support the economy. Every month, I try to make sure that I make some type of purchase within Dogecoin, to
Yeah.
keep it going and trying to make it as big as possible, because that's the thing. The difference between Bitcoin and Dogecoin is so feasible, so usable. I mean, anyone can, once they've been able acclimated into the community, the access ramp is much easier, and you can purchase Dogecoin and you can use Dogecoin. There are lots of places to use it, and there's lots of different methods to use it. And even if a site doesn't, accept Dogecoin, but they accept Bitcoin, there's like shift lens, and you can convert it with a click of a button, and you can, use your Dogecoin. Uh, and I think that's the key of its acceptance, is because of the community, and because it's more than just about money, it's about what you can do with it. And because you can purchase it with such ease, and use it with such ease, that is a lot of people are using it. That's why it has that high transaction volume. That's why there's so many different communities that are very strong about it, especially in China. Really is gearing up really strongly in the Dogecoin community. And I think that's really key in its acceptance, is saying that anywhere in the world you are at, just like Bitcoin, but any world with this, not only can you use it, but you can use it to empower yourself. You can use it to empower others. And I think that really, if you give that human quality to the coin, that's beyond just intrinsic value, people are going to gravitate to it. They want to do more than just spend their money. They want to know that at the end of the day, that money is actually going to something.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and that all comes down to, there's another website too. The Kickstarter with Dogecoin and Bitcoin and stuff, and they post their address publicly, so you can actually see like where that money goes. And I mean, there comes a point where you transfer that to like 6 different wallets, and it's pretty hard to. Like it's a lot of effort to go trace it, but the point is that it is out there, and you can do it if you want to go do an audit and see where this is all going. It's like this guy Joe with Dogecoin on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
He needs $1,660 US in order to do this, and you send him Dogecoin, and there's a likely chance that he could just disappear. But
Yes.
But that's something that we were talking about, and it's interesting because I don't think I've ever seen the guy who was running Moolah. I don't think I've ever seen his face. But 6 months later, we have this new technology, BitTube.tv, and we're actually able to stick our faces out there. And like, this would be kind of cool if we start creating like celebrities. Like I keep forgetting the guy who made the coin. What was his name? Palmer.
Jackson Palmer and Billy Marks. Yeah.
Yeah. So like. Those poor guys, I mean, they jumped out in front of like 1 million people, and I've certainly, now that I'm coming out onto the internet and stuff, I see the criticisms that you're faced with, and I understand what their jobs must have been like. But I think we're gonna start to see people, like, imagine if I had a QR code on my chest, you could actually like scan my shirt and pay me. Like, how neat is that? Actually, I might have to start a website doing that.
Yeah, I don't think you even necessarily need to do a website to do that. You just put it out there. I mean, you can get the templates or whatever, and people can download it and put it on their own T-shirts, or order it just straight off.
Yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea. Like iron on like QR code generators and stuff.
Yeah,
But that's
exactly.
the thing you were saying, though. There has to be that front end consumer facing technology that's there. I mean, for example, little buttons down on my website, like those buttons programmatically are super easy to create, and nobody's got them on their website. I don't know why. Like a blogger can simply just go like, here's my Bitcoin. Like I see them posting their Bitcoin address, and that doesn't mean anything to anybody. And it also doesn't show them how much Bitcoin they've earned.
No, and there was one really early off that I had on my site, and I don't know what actually happened to it, as far as keeping it going. But there was one where you can click on it, and you can either do Litecoin, Bitcoin, or Dogecoin, and you can see how much has been tipped to the blogger.
Oh, yeah?
And all you have to do is just push the button. And there's not enough of that press the button type of deal where someone can just put the code onto their website, press the button, at the end of every blog post, where they want to do different addresses for each post or whatever. But the press the button thing, it's just like so human. That's kids do it all the time in the car. You know, press the button, press the button, press the button.
Well,
And
let me get your opinion on something. Can you open up a browser to technewsia.com?
hold on.
Because you're a blogger, like I'm like a site administrator, so I'd like to get your live opinion on this. Not to put you on the spot, but you know.
Okay, I see it.
Okay, so just click any one of the. Well, so what you see right there is you can see like I think it's the second article has raised 5,000 Dogecoin on it.
I see creating new him and cents is 6:45, and yeah, I see it. Yeah, and it's all you have to do is just. Oh, okay. All
Right.
right.
So now if you click into the blog post.
Uh-huh.
And just under the image there, you'll see the buttons.
Okay, yes, that's what they need. Right there on the top, big, colorful, and simple. Tip.
Yeah.
Yes, instead of addresses. Yes.
So the whole point is that when you create, you can go to this website and you create your account. You do have to put in your Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Dogecoin payment addresses, but then that's it. You never have to touch any like crypto settings again. Every post that you create, so you type it up and you go create post, and it goes live. It goes to each one of the blockchains and creates the addresses and does all this techie mumbo jumbo blockchainy whatever automatically on the fly. And what the consumer gets, anybody who's coming by, through somebody tweets their post, and those buttons are specific to that article, but they're tied to the author. So when you click tip and you enter in 5,000 Dogecoins and hit send, it tips the article itself, and then those coins go to the author. So I don't know why anybody hasn't done this, but here it is, and I've been trying to run it, and I've got well over 80,000 page views in the last month between all my websites. So it's catching on.
Well, yeah, and that is the thing that's going to get it to where consumers are going to want to be part of it. I mean, right now, ChangeTip is going to go into SoundCloud, and I was looking at SoundCloud to see, well, who's accepting ChangeTip and stuff like that. And it's nice to have that, but if you're not getting people accepting it, if you're not getting a button on there where I can go to SoundCloud, whether I'm listening to a podcast or listening to someone's latest track, and I can just click on the artist, and I see that button that says Bitcoin. Or ChangeTip, the thing there, it's not gonna work. There has to be that click. I just shouldn't have to go off the site. I shouldn't have to go anywhere like that, and it should be integrated.
Yeah.
Even if an artist doesn't want to accept Bitcoin, I mean, it should be very easy for them to turn it on and off like a light switch. It should be already there, just like the credit card purchases are already integrated into SoundCloud.
Hey, you think one day somebody will come out with like a system? I guess that's kind of what ChangeTip does. You just say tip $2, and whether you're a Bitcoiner, a Litecoiner, a Dogecoiner, a Dark Coiner, whatever coiner, it'll just sort of automatically convert it into what you want. And I think if we look forward at like where cryptocurrency is going to be in the next like 2-3 years, you'll probably be using, you'll go down to like Walmart and you'll swipe your debit card, and then the guy behind you will swipe his Doge card, but Walmart will just pull out US dollars. Or maybe they start buying, all their products in Bitcoin from some guy who only takes Bitcoin. Like I think the next couple years of this Bitcoin stuff, it's going to get wild.
We're starting to see some of that closed ecosystem. I mean, there's places that are popping up, and Overstock really is like one of the bigger companies that's trying to do this, where they're trying to purchase, pay their employees in Bitcoin, receive their funds in Bitcoin, purchase things in Bitcoin, and trying to close that loop so we have that closed ecosystem. I know in the Philippines, you can actually load up different cards and swipe it with Bitcoin, like gift cards like in all the different stores. Down in Mexico, they have the same thing. They have the gift card system. I think that's another way to get consumers to gravitate to cryptocurrencies, because they're used to gift cards. They know what a gift card is. And if they hand their cash over, And that's the step about cryptocurrencies is staying out of the banking system. I mean, when you do that with a gift card, you just hand your cash over and it's on the card. I think that's going to get people more accepting, because not only will it be on the card if you want to do the swipe thing, but you can use it on the computer with a much easier usage than a credit card, because you're not typing your name or address. It's just that QR code. It's just that address. The other thing is just the whole number thing, like that 16-digit number thing. They need to do what they did with websites back in the 90s and put like a name. I know One Name is doing that with the whole one name identity thing, but they need to something. It's something that needs to make it easier for people to gravitate it, whether it's a person's name, a username, a fake name, like a pink banana red or something like that, to make it easier, because people are not going to remember numbers and letters and combine it all together, especially if you have multiple ones. But they're going to remember names. They just are. It's just how people's minds work in association.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's super frustrating to have to remember a website's IP address. Like, for example, this website here has an IP address, but it's masked as BitTube.tv.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not possible through Bitcoin and stuff, because you go right click, create new address, and you can create a new address. So we would run out of like names super quick.
You would, but the name thing is not necessarily so tied to the address, I guess, per se. There could be a mechanism, because I mean, there is like Coca-Cola 2 or Coca-Cola 3 or something like that added in. It's just something to make it easier, because I think that's when I talk to people, the whole number thing throws them off. Some of them understand the QR code thing, but the whole
You know
number
what?
thing, yeah.
That's not a bad idea, because let's say you and I are out at a mall
Yeah.
and we have coffee, and you go, oh, I'm a Bitcoiner and I'm a Dogecoiner. Well, I'd like to give you a tip, but I don't have my phone on me. So that's it. Like, I'll never see you again, and I can't give you that tip. But if you could say, yeah, my tip address is Coca-Cola 3 dot Hiroja. You could probably remember that, or you could write that down, but you are never going to remember your 16-digit Bitcoin address.
No, you're not.
So I don't know. That's kind of a good point. Anybody could do that. So if you're out there and you think that's a cool idea, start pressing buttons and make that happen, okay?
Yeah. But I've been looking at the One Name thing, and they have that, but it's not necessarily the same thing with the whole on top of the Bitcoin address thing. It's just like a kind of a separate thing where you have a profile, really.
Right.
That's part of the blockchain. And I have that, and there's a lot more stuff coming out with that, where you verify a person's identity through the use of the blockchain, and whatever you set as your identity, that's your identity, is embedded into the blockchain, and no one else can take it from you, but how you use it is going to build your reputation.
Right.
So, and it's very fascinating, because if you think about it, because I was looking at someone's Facebook profile, and they've had it since Facebook has been around since 2004, and they were like 16 at the time. They somehow were able to get into Facebook very early on, or figure out how to do that. Maybe be like 6 or something, whenever Facebook opened up to everybody. And to watch their progression, if you went through the timeline from the silly, stupid stuff that a teenager does till now, where they're a full-grown adult 10 years later, you have to think about people's reputations changes through time, and you can see it the blockchain, just like I saw through this person's Facebook timeline, of the things that they were interested in change, or how they talk to people, or things of that nature, the stuff that even remained on Facebook. And it would be interesting to see how that, with the whole aspect of the public ledger, how you can kind of track a person's personality, their trends, the things that they like, the things that maybe even they purchase, but their reputation overall, whether it goes up and down, whether it stays stagnant, whether, it increases over time. It'd be fascinating, because even with the communication the way it is, like I'm seeing you as a person right now, I still don't really know you so much. Even if you were to tell me all this data or information, I still don't know who you are, really. I mean, that's the thing about the internet, is we can know a lot of things about a lot of people, but we still don't know who they are. That need for that human connection. And I think that blockchain technology, especially with the One Name thing, what they're trying to do is they're trying to give that human connection, where you're trying to verify as much information and the constant contact, and knowing that nothing can be altered, to where, oh, I can see at one point in time you were into Pokemon. and now you're into, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that. So I know you're into anime and stuff like that, and it's
So is
verifiable.
that from their transactional data with like what they're purchasing with Bitcoin?
I can see that eventually happening with one name, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it to the all-encompassing password where you log onto a website and you don't have to know a password. You just click your profile and you're in. Just like with Google and stuff, you click your email and you're in. And that ties into that person's profile, and you can see their purchases through the blockchain because you know what their Bitcoin address is.
Hmm.
Unless they're constantly changing their Bitcoin address attached to their profile, you know, you can see what their transactions are. You can probably even see what websites they go on to through their profile and
Big
verifying.
data, man. It's coming.
It,
I'm a
it is coming.
firm believer in this thing called the singularity, which I think
I've talking about robots in the past too. I personally like friendly robots, but
I
it is
personally
coming.
like friend. I've actually got to meet Ray Kurz while he was in Toronto, and
Uh-huh.
uh, he was at a book for how to create a mind. His new book was out, and so I got to go down on the end of the stage and got a picture with him, and it was cool. So I'm a big Kurzweil Kool-Aid drinker, but I'm also a really big fan of Elon Musk, who's like, it's going to kill us. We got to be careful with this. And it's
I can see going to kill us, but who's going to be the person that is going to flip the switch? Because people have to understand, for order for the singularity to happen, it has to be programmed into existence. It
well,
doesn't.
here's a good example. Okay, so you
Yeah.
create a general AI to stop spam on the internet,
Yes.
and the general AI goes, okay, the easiest way to stop spam is to kill every human.
But it's not going to make that an intuitive leap. That's
I
kind of like
agree.
a movie type of a deal. I mean, all it's going to do is a type of spam is maybe what it's going to do is it's going to say, I need more servers, or maybe I need to stop that server from ever sending out.
Yeah.
It might think that.
Well, I mean, I've really enabled the ability, just thinking about this thought right now, like, so Technewsia can get traffic through something called search engine optimization. So if somebody were to create a bot that lived on a laptop and created its own Bitcoin address, or had its own address, right? It could now officially, it's crossed this membrane where Joe Rogan actually, I heard about this, right? You could take a bot and that it could create its own website and start getting paid Dogecoin and Bitcoin and Litecoin. I have actually just enabled a robot to create posts on the internet and for people to tip it and for it to like continue its development and do all this stuff.
Well,
So there's like a barrier we've crossed.
There's that robot that they had in the museum where they was going on the dark market and it just randomly purchased things through Bitcoin and had it sent to the museum. And it got seized by the government there. I forget which European country it was in. I want to say it was Sweden or something like that. But
so let me get this straight. So somebody wrote a bot
yes,
and dumped a bunch of money into it, or you could tip into it,
yes,
and it would just go buy illegal things off the dark net.
whatever was on the dark net. It just
Wow.
randomly bought stuff. It did buy drugs, but it also bought like IDs, papers, books, odd things, whatever it wanted to buy, and it had the money funds for it bought. And they did, I think, like maybe 12 purchases before it got shut down and seized. And what it came down to was, well, it was a bot doing the purchases and it had the money, but who owned the bot? What is the bot going on trial or the person who programmed it? I mean, it was a whole like criminality thing. I mean, the person who programmed it, maybe they program it in such a way, kind of like the Silk Road thing, where
it decides its interests, and this bot
the
goes,
person
I
who
like
used
it.
yeah, or I like it, or the person who used it is the one who decided to put that robot to the dark net instead of just Amazon. I
Right, but
mean,
that's like saying I had a child and it killed somebody, so why am
yes,
I going to jail?
exactly.
It made its own decision.
It made its own decision. Yes.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean Bitcoin and Litecoin and Dogecoin and all these currencies are going to start to give these entities buying power in our real world. We are going to be able to see this thing on the internet come through the median and start moving real world objects.
well, that's
And
what IBM is trying to do with their Internet of Things and stuff like that, and
yeah,
they're exploring the blockchain. Uh, I would like to see my refrigerator, buy my milk and have it delivered to me by Amazon or some drone thing. I know that's going to happen one day.
Wow,
Where
I just put that together. Thanks for sharing that with us. So,
yeah.
could you just explain a little bit more about like the IBM Internet of Things and how Bitcoin could integrate with that, so your fridge could buy you your milk? Could you elaborate on that? That's brilliant.
Well, basically, what it is the concept is your refrigerator. You have your refrigerator in your home, and it has a set temperature and stuff like that. But it's now going to be done by a computer. And what this computer is going to do is not only is it going to keep the mechanics of the refrigerator like cold, the ice going, water coming out, but it's going to scan the objects in your refrigerator, and it's going to know what's in there. It knows when it's going to expire, but it's also going to know when to purchase it. For example, if you have milk and you have kids, so you're constantly going out of milk every 3 days, it knows that you put the milk on Monday to purchase the milk on Wednesday, so it can be there on Thursday morning. It's going to know, oh, your strawberries, you eat them all the time, but it's been in the refrigerator for whatever reason for 2 weeks now. It needs to go. So it needs to get out of the refrigerator. It's expired, but also you need more strawberries. And it's going to make these decisions. It's going to be tied into your account, and it's going to start purchasing your items. So whatever your funds you have in your account, it's going to automatically start deducting stuff and buying and purchasing your groceries for you. But more importantly, there's going to be probably a component in there for health reasons. What if your grandma or yourself personally is diabetic? It's going to know that item in your food item is not good for you. It might
Your
warn you.
doctor will be able to generate a report.
Yes.
Even worse than your doctor, your healthcare
Yeah.
provider.
Yes.
Like your insurance company is going to be able to log into your phone and go, well, you've been eating ice cream for 44 days straight, and
yes.
we're not going to cover you because you caused it. This is self-inflicted.
Yes. Well, you have to think about the whole thing with the cars now. They want to put that little GPS thing in your car, and it's for keeping account of your mileage for you. But really what it is how fast you're going, how far you're going, how often you
insurance
drive.
companies can log into that and go, well, you drive 40% of the time you're driving, you're over the speed limit. So here's your new insurance rate. But on the other hand, guys like me, man, I will, if there was a thing to track me and lower my costs on things, I would use it for sure. I mean, look at this thing I got on my wrist. It's got my pedometer on it. I have the last 60 days. Actually, I had this one first. I have the last 90 days of my exercise activity. I don't take this thing off. And it's really opened my eyes to, like, I do this chair that I sit in, I do this all day long. And I go to the gym. And it was apparent to me that I had to go to the gym because, like, the bars were like this big. And that has a direct influence on my heart and my health. And I'm about to be a father, so I can't die. I have responsibilities for at least the next 25 years. And I started going to the gym, and I leave this thing on, and I can see the increase in my physical activity and the decrease of my fat. And it is mind-blowing. So if I could have more insight into that, like the next one I want to get is a heart rate monitor. This is just the first Galaxy Gear. Mm-hmm. But if I could get the heart rate monitor on that, I'm 27 now. So by the time I'm 37, I'll be able to go to the doctor and say, doc, my chest is kind of hurting. I'm sort of becoming at risk for the, heart disease. And we'll look at my historical data. Every single beat that my heart has had will be reportable.
And it's going to tell you all those damn Red Bulls and Monsters you've been drinking has eroded your heart wall, and this is why you're having these problems.
Exactly. And then my insurance company won't cover me, and I will die, and I will become dirt. Actually, I'm going to become a robot and live forever. But
because your insurance company is going to say, well, there's been this warning since blah, blah, blah year that this is a possibility, and therefore you should have known.
Right.
Taking caution and stuff like that.
Or on the other hand, because this is a Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Dogecoin sort of conversation, we'll have these technologies that can monitor that, and you just start putting money into your Bitcoin account, and your personal assistant Bitcoin AI thing will go out and purchase things for you. So you come home and you no longer get Red Bull in your fridge. Or maybe you do, because that just crossed the boundary of, okay, well, you no longer get to eat because you're diabetic. So here's lettuce and grass. Mm-hmm. So there has to be like a certain amount, a threshold, but perhaps, your bots are out buying this stuff for you. and they just say, here, you know, eat this. And maybe it pays you. Wouldn't that be cool if there was a company that paid you to eat their food?
Yeah, and pay you to eat their food, or the reward points for your purchases and stuff like that would come
Yeah.
through Bitcoin or Litecoin, or the token system that people are developing.
You actually have to eat the kale shake in order to get the rewards from Dogecoin, and like these little sensors in your tongue will like know that you've eaten it. And
that's bizarre.
you could actually assign the one Dogecoin to every atom of food in there, and as it passes through your body, anyway, the singularity is near, folks.
It is near, and right now we're just in the whole data crunch of where they can just somehow know a person's personality. Is the whole enemy of the state. They can figure out where you're going to go with the whole game theory, you know, figure out which routes you're going to take and what you're going to purchase and what you're going to like and stuff like that. It's just frightening.
You know what's crazy though? This thing here, this Oculus Rift.
Oh,
okay.
Yes.
I got this the other day. Some kid was selling it, and for a stupid price, so I went out and picked it up, and it's just a development kit, and the real thing's not even here. And this thing is so crazy, man. It blew my mind. You put your hand out, that hand is in another universe. I had my mother and my father over to try it. They're older and they don't play video games, and I couldn't get my dad off of it. He was flying around in a jetpack and just loved it. So
but the only thing I have with the whole thing is how is it different from those very old gameplay video games where you put the game in the DVD and you're interacting, whether it would be like with a light beam or the board game and your input? How is that any different, really? I don't see, unless it's a full-on holodeck.
This is a holodeck.
Is it a holodeck?
It is a holodeck. You look down, you've got a body, but it's not your body, and it's an actual 3D space. So, for example, there's a hang glider demo, and there's hands out here like this, and they look like your hands. I mean, obviously they're graphics. They're not like Xbox 360. They're sort of like triangle, but they're like your body can identify that they're your hands. I tell you, man, there's this thing called rift sickness that some people get. I get rift sickness. And what it is when you turn your head, your view takes a little while to catch up. So your brain, it tricks your brain so well that your brain goes, whoa, dude, and it thinks you're on a hallucinogenic drug and makes you want to vomit to purge yourself of the drugs. So it is literally tricking your brain into thinking that this is a real scenario. So the trick is, I'm playing Grand Theft Auto 5. The trick is to go from first person to like putting it on a screen. So now it's just a really big TV. But even in this mode, you put the Oculus Rift on and you've got this big 100-inch TV screen that you're playing on. But if you look over there, there's a window with a shelf with some popcorn. You're on a big leather couch. You're literally in another world. And I guarantee you, the first time that somebody goes, oh man, I got the Oculus Rift, you got to come over and try it. And you try it, the singularity is near. And
but the tricking of the brain, I see it happening in a sense, but a lot of it is your mind filling up that information and filling it up and feeling like you're in that other place, even though you're not, because you're at home and you're sitting on the couch. But at some point in time, people are going to get used to that, and they're going to want to have to where, just like a holodeck where they're in a room and they sit down, and it's because it's been created, whether it be a 3D printed creation or something, and it's being created where you feel the senses of something. Like you actually feel the sensation of
that's actually coming. So Ray Kurzweil was talking about in his book How to Create a Mind at this conference we went to. We'll be able to actually directly tap into like parts of your brain, just like the Matrix. So if you think about like the light that's coming in, it goes through your optic nerve, it connects to your brain at some point. All you have to do is fire the same neurons and repeat those patterns. This is a really cool topic, actually. I had this thought about, this is where like Technosia and BitTube.tv comes from. If you think about what they're doing, like I could get paid to share this experience that you and I are having. And there's a decrease in jobs because robots are coming out. So what the heck are humans gonna do? and it's brilliant. We're going to do stuff to get paid. The word job is going to change its meaning, and a job will be playing soccer. How's that possible? Because computers will study, like you'll get paid to create new neural patterns of experience. And you can get paid that in Bitcoin or Dogecoin because it's all digital and it just comes in. But the point is that other people will want to experience this. I mean, if robots are doing everything and all humans are experience machines, we'll have to go out and generate all this experience. If we're truly going to create an AI that understands what it is to be human, it has to tap into all of our experience. So we'll have to go out and start recording this and experiencing other people's experiences. And that's going to be just literally broadcasted straight into your brain. They're doing this with mice and all this kind of stuff already.
Well, I've seen some of that because they also seen that like the shifting and changing in the brain, like helping people who are depressed, and they have a chip, and I think it came out of the University of Pennsylvania, where they shock you, and it helped the person who was depressed by basically realigning the neurology in the person's brain to where the depression wasn't gone. It didn't eradicate it. What it did was it allowed the person to have the ability to cope, because they lost the ability to cope because they've been depressed for so long. They have basically walked that same path within their brain for so often that they don't no longer have the ability to go back to the point where they did have the means to go like, okay, I need to be able to process this, because they never went down that path. And what that chip did was shocking them to be able to go down that path to be able to process the depression, because that's what depression is the inability to process what's going on. And that's what they were doing. And they found the results were like, even when they took it out, the results were still good for like 6 months. And they're building off of that. And they're also doing that with PSD, where they were like, hitting someone in the back of the brain with a shot of, I don't know what the drug was, and it's prevented like the nightmares and the panic attacks and stuff of that nature. The person still had to go to therapy and still had to process the emotional aspects, but the physical aspects were not necessarily occurring. And I can see that being helpful on the medical end, but I also can see how like already, I think they did a study where they were able to move somebody's hand with a chip in their brain, where you're able to kind of control. I mean, they're thinking like they can read your dreams now, like in the Prometheus movie, or at least read your thoughts.
Yeah, I've seen that stuff too.
Scanning your brain. And I think it's fun and exciting that we're able to process and do these AIs and do all this kind of kinetic energy and experience stuff. But I can also see the flip side of how it could be like very dangerous. Like the whole thought police can actually be real, or you have a negative thought or a negative image.
I don't buy that stuff. I'm a real big, I mean, Ray Kurzweil shares an optimistic future, and I am right there drinking his Kool-Aid on that, because it's, privacy. This is a thing that we were born with. I have a son who's going to be born in 2 weeks. He won't know what privacy is. He's already on Facebook, like like pictures of my wife, and like there's a shirt of him, like his little foot from the ultrasound. He's already on the internet. So even before he was born, he's on the internet. That kid will not know privacy. He will be in grade 4 and be like, you don't have a Facebook account yet? Like, kids are going to make fun of him. And the whole idea of thought police, we're going to be allowed to think of everything, because you're not going to be able to control every human being. I think like piracy, they can't control piracy, because piracy gets more and more complicated every time you try to stop it in one sense or another. And you're not going to be able to stop the human thought. And our human thoughts are going to start to go into computers who are going to simulate thoughts and have their own thoughts and thinking and thoughts. This is going to be the new realm that people live in. This is the whole realm of energy type thing. And why would you want to criminalize specific thoughts? Everything has to be expressed, and it will be expressed, because if you don't like it on the internet, I'm going to jump on the Tor network and run my simulations there.
Well, the same reason why thoughts are going to be criminalized is the same reason that blog posts are criminalized. It's just people want absolute control, and there's just awful people out there and awful types of systems and ideology out there. There's going to be places where that's just going to be the case, just as it is now. They're just going to be more efficient at it. I mean, just look at what's happening with the way we're able to track stuff on the internet, it's harder and harder for normal average day people. They're not tech savvy to hide their identity, to post anonymously, because they can find your IP address, they can find out what cafe you go to, and then they just have to sit and watch the cafe and track you down. I mean, that's how they found Ross Ulbricht. They sat and watched him for days on end. Once they found that one little kernel information, they were able to access his entire existence.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, if you're out there and you're a criminal and you are creating a bunch of illegal material, there is going to be, and everybody's afraid of this thing. I'm Canadian, so it's not as bad as it. I think you're in the States. And I mean, I went to go across the border just down to Buffalo, New York for the day, and there was like 40 cameras pointed, taking like a 3D image of my face. I know I'm in the NSA database, and I welcome these systems to a point, but like if some guy is going to go kill somebody and there's a computer system that goes, hey, this guy's at risk, and it prevents the deaths of 40 people, but maybe he doesn't do it, right? Maybe he doesn't actually go to commit the crime, but the fact that we're going to be more aware of data, and I mean, to take the stance of like, oh, like I'm afraid of it, and to diss it, like it is here, it is happening. The very fact that we're using Google technology over Skype and using Facebook, I mean, we have already accepted this thing. So
we've already accepted this thing from both the corporations and the government. And I think what people's biggest concern is retention. They don't want their every single thought or every single trackable moment retained for eternity. But to combine all those things, there was a case recently in New York with a police officer that was part of this kind of dark web, dark net group, where they had rape fantasies of all these different people that they wanted, and they traded these stories. And I guess he was going through a divorce, and his wife notified his job, and he got fired. And they actually charged him with a conspiracy with other people that were part of his group. And it was kicked out because even though he wrote some very explicit and awful stuff, and he actually used real people in it, it was a fantasy. He never enacted on this. And even though these guys actually conspired like dates and times and with which people they wanted to pick up, they actually never did anything.
Yeah, but here's the thing. That guy wrote the thing and put it out publicly on the internet. And I know it, you know, we say publicly, but it's on the dark net.
Yeah,
so it's
publicly not in a private type of forum, but it was
on the internet. Wrote that stuff. Yes. Like I got a whole journal of stuff here, man, and I do all sorts of writing and stuff, and I file that in a filing cabinet for, you know, later. I don't post it on the internet. And it's a behavioral issue. I mean, you shouldn't get on Facebook and utter death threats to people.
No, but the point was that the reason why the judge said that this man, shouldn't face these charges and was all kind of dismissed was you can't thought police until that person enacts that crime. There's nothing really anyone can do. All we know now is the type of personality that person has, their fantasies that they have, and maybe as a society we'll take a step away from that person. We'll be cautious of that person.
Well,
because of their dark thoughts.
That's not bad. I mean, like Google Glass would have been cool. Like, you know, you go to meet somebody at a cafe, and you're like, oh, I remember I did a podcast with you a couple years ago. And how cool would it be to just get like the latest like 3 blog posts that you did, or like some, you know, got married 2 years ago. Like, oh wow, that's cool. But wouldn't it also be cool? You know, I'm bringing my kids to the pool, and I can just do a quick scan and be like, that guy needs to go. Like, I'm not, you know, or at least highlight him in yellow to be like, yeah, man, maybe.
Well, there has been efforts on that end as far as apps go, and there's been some legality issues about taking, like, here in the States, we have the sex offenders list, and we have different laws in different states, and people's pictures are up. Taking that information and put it in an app so you can take a person's picture, scan, and you know. And some people see that as a step too far. You just have to do the website or post notifications. But people, that day's going to come where already I know from living in Las Vegas where they have known like cheaters and stuff in people's database, and they can scan the people's faces and stuff like that. But malls are using that where they know where someone's a known shoplifter, or someone's just known as trouble, has a record or something like that, that would pertain to their particular company, as they might need to send security down there and usher them away or just follow them around. and stuff like that.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I mean, your
But
body does the same thing. I view all this stuff as natural. I mean, your
mhm.
body has like cells and it goes in and it like watches the cell and connects through neurons to like, this is all, we're just recreating the human body on a global scale. So to me, man, I just like, I used to be like an Occupy Wall Street guy. I camped out there
Mhm.
for days and I had like a solar power bike and I was like, I got to change the world. And then I
Yes.
realized that the world is changing and I'm just simply part of it. And, you know, you do your thing and take a deep breath and relax. And life's really pretty good, man. But also, you know, be careful. So,
Be careful and be cautious, and I can see a lot of great potential with this. I also see the negative, and it doesn't mean just because there's negative that you shouldn't do something. I mean,
true.
something should not exist. I mean, if that was the case, then like 99.9% of everything we use right now would not exist because of the potential of a negativity. I mean, like look at the light bulb. The early light, some early light bulbs, caused fires in homes. Electricity caused fires. Also, electricity was used for horrible things like the electric chair and shock treatment and stuff like that. But it also powers the entire world, our entire existence. The internet would not exist without electricity.
Hey, you've just sparked me into something here, and we should probably make this our last topic because
Okay.
it's going on. I am loving this conversation, but I'm double the amount of time on my last podcast. I don't know how well this is received yet, but
Okay.
this the last topic will be something called Ethereum.
Ah,
You say so you know what it is.
yes.
I got some in their pre-sale and I sort of understand what it is, but maybe you could inform us.
Ethereum is this ideal of everything and anything. I think Ethereum is like I don't know what the philosophical term of it is, where people project their thoughts and ideas onto the person, but there's nothing there.
Right.
That's Ethereum. I feel
Ether.
Ethereum is, and people have used different parts of it. Like counterparties use parts of Ethereum. A lot of different projects have used it, but Ethereum itself has not existed. It has not really been put out there. It's just a bunch of white papers and ideas, and it hasn't really published. So I can't really say what it is. I just know that it's a type of counterparty blockchain alternative idea out there that's supposed to do like smart contracts and add
Right.
things and tokens and things of that nature. But in and of itself, it hasn't existed. There's very bits and parts of the program existed in other things.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
still in development, and they had the
Yes.
pre-sale like last year or something. So I bought some, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
Dogecoin where it's inflationary and all this stuff. But I remember looking at it, and the idea was that you could tie like electricity is about to change. Elon Musk just announced the Tesla Powerwall. Have you seen this thing?
Yes. Yes. They're
So,
building a factory in Nevada to build these things.
oh no way, yeah, gigafactories, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, or maybe that's something else. I don't know. I don't know. Watch the TED Talk. Um, but what is going to happen is I studied electricity and the Canadian forces and stuff, and that's what makes me so avid on the internet because I sort of see them as this weird thing that's going to come together. But I mean, like you've got an internet Wi-Fi router at home, and so does your
Mm-hmm.
neighbor, and so does the neighbor, and so does the neighbor, and we're going to see this happen with the Tesla Powerwall, and we're going to connect our homes together. And if I'm using a lot of power, say I'm doing this podcast, but my neighbor's off camping for the weekend and I need extra power, I can just grab some power from them. And what it could do if this catches on and goes worldwide, the electricity itself can now become Ethereum. And I had this thought where, like, energy itself will make its way into blockchain form, and every atom, every bit of energy that moves is traceable. And the future of where these two things go, I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, folks, but if you could just take like the idea of Ethereum and blockchain and tie that to electricity and how this is all going to work, and the new distributed grid that we could form, this is the kind of world that we're looking at. We tie that into virtual reality and pattern formation as jobs and stuff. I mean, this is like 10 to 15 years away.
Not only that,
So,
but it only not only will show the demonstration of the efficiency of the creation of electricity, but how you're sharing it, who you're sharing it with, how it's going across. You could
Who
probably
needs more of it?
who needs more of it. You can probably send it not just beyond your neighborhood, but to other aspects of the country or wherever, or even depending on how far or wide it goes into another country in and of itself. Maybe there was a natural disaster and you have this extra amount of electric grid, and you can send it down to a grid point where they can store it, put it in the batteries, and send it down to that place because their infrastructure is devastated.
Like, for example, Nepal just had a terrible earthquake.
Yes.
And we can now take, like, I'm sure the Canadian and American forces will just have this, like, quadcopter with 1 billion batteries in it, you know, like 100,000 gigawatts or giga hours or whatever. And it just sort of like flies down to Nepal and lands, and people can just go, oh, it's
and
here. And it's
drop it and either put the battery in the existing systems that may not have been completely devastated, or be able to create and develop, you know, the grid itself back together, because it'd be easy to assemble quickly because everything's smaller now, more efficient. You don't need a huge, you know, like most power grids are these big metal things that take out either half a block or a full block, depending on, you know, what it does and where you are in a city. Like older cities is bigger. And you can have like that grid zone, and it powers the hospital, it powers the block, it powers the city in and of itself.
And the crazy thing is, you don't even need the grid. I've been following this thing that Bill Gates is trying to do, the Bill Gates
Wi-Fi?
Not the Wi-Fi, just he has this thing called the bet or something like that. It's his bet about the next 10 years is that the most impoverished countries now will see the most technological change and prosperity than any other parts of the world, because it's already pretty awesome here in Canada and North America and the States. But it isn't awesome in Africa. But they're going to benefit from, like, this phone here. I'm about to throw this out. It's a perfectly good, working, awesome phone, but the next one's coming out, so I got to get it.
That next one, that phone right there, is probably worth $100 reselling. That's going to sell for 200 in the third world, right there.
Well, maybe I'll donate it because I don't want it. And the point is, it's going to get over to Africa, okay?
Yes.
And they're not going to have the power to charge it. But through Dogecoin, and you know, Dogecoin decides to buy them a power pack. Okay, cool. And now Google's in the atmosphere with their Google Air Blimp broadcasting Wi-Fi. And some guy sits down and he goes, okay, how to make a computer programming website. And he learns all about technology and stuff. He can now educate himself, and he can go to work maybe like Fiverr.com, you know, just doing these gigs for $5 US, which may change this entire village over there. So, but they can't go and open up a bank account. So they may end up being the first people who were completely out of Dogecoin. I mean, how cool would that be if Dogecoin was to buy a community? So they go out, they raise $7,500 for a Tesla power pack. They buy them internet access somehow, some remote satellite system, and give them a bunch of computers. So now they can power themselves. They can learn how to create better, you know, farming systems, and like they will have never touched a US, Canadian, Euro, nothing like that, but live strictly off blockchain type currencies. And I think that could be a really cool. If you want the term to Google for that, it's the African boom.
Yeah, and I've read a little bit about that, but what I see Africa and a lot of these places being is much like how here in the out west in the United States, and I'm pretty sure it's probably parts of Canada are like this, where you have like the East Coast where it was all like based on the horse, and everything's all, the cities are all compacted. But out west, because of this development, and it was mostly farm based, a little bit agricultural, but it was all industrial as far as like oil mining and stuff like that. So everything was kind of spread out. It was just like wide open spaces, and then the car got invented, and everything was designed around the car. The whole cities out west are designed around the car. So the streets are bigger, the roadways are bigger, the houses are different, everything's in. Plus of the earthquakes, everything's not stacked high. It's like just kind of like 2-3 level stories, unless you're really in the centralized area. And I can see Africa being designed around the internet and the Internet of Things, where you're not going to see the same traditional systems that you see in other cities. Right. And I imagine that to be more environmentally sound. I imagine that being more human orientated versus the car, where it's more industrial orientated, where the Internet thing is more human orientated, where you're going to see more what looks like almost like a traditional village, like from like the 1800s kind of a idea to kind of paint the picture, but it's not. Everything is solar powered. Everything, you know, you're growing your own food. You have your own internet connection. Everything is, you know, environmentally sound, and it's all like Jetsons.
Well, that's my goal. My goal is to buy a power pack, buy a small house, buy 20 acres of land, get paid completely through the internet, Bitcoin,
Yeah.
Dogecoin, and of course, I'm still going to need Canadian dollars to live. But that is the plan. This retiring at 60 thing, I want to do that by the time I'm 30. So, but
well,
I think
you gotta get the kicking going because you got 3 more years there.
hey, I've created 4 Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin products in the last like 60 days. So I'm doing okay, and I'm still learning what a professional product is and shipping it out there. But I mean, it's all one foot before the other foot, and you know, it'll get there. But I think what we're looking for personally through, you know, things like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, Ethereum, the Internet of Things, I think we're looking at a very promising world if we could just get this AI and data sketchy system thing figured out. So, hey, let's talk a little bit about you. So you are a blogger and all that stuff. Do you have a website or anything?
I do. I do have a website. I just kind of relaunched everything. It's called Musings of the Shy Podcast, all one word, but .space.
Okay.
I saw that and I was like, either Ninja or Space. It's like space works with Dogecoin.
Okay,
So
well, we'll get a link in the description of this video. I'll send you a copy of this podcast. You can upload it on your website. We'll put all your Twitter information and all that stuff below in the description. And the last part of this thing, folks, if you have watched this entire podcast and you're still here, awesome. But press the buttons on the bottom. Look, I made them just for you so you can help spread this whole thing out and start showing people that you can pay for content with this. So
tip this man, everyone. Tip him.
Press the button. Press the button.
Press the button.
And then go press the button for other people. You know what? Forget about me. Forget about it. Go spend your Dogecoin on other people. Okay? Go spend it elsewhere. I'd prefer it. Okay, so thanks a lot. This discussion was amazing. You were very well thought out. Yeah, it was fun. So we'll maybe we'll do it again in a couple. Hey, puppy.
Yes, we have finally hit the mark.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. We'll get this posted, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right, thank you so much, Andrew. It's been fun.
See you later.